To find the midpoint between 2 points, think middle. As you can see, it's right in the word. If you were to think about the midpoint on a graph with its 2 endpoints, the midpoint would be right in the middle of those 2 endpoints. So to find it algebraically, you just need to find the average of the x-coordinates and the average of your y-coordinates. The same way you would find the average of, say, 2 test scores. To do that, you would add your 2 test scores together and then divide by 2. Same thing goes for midpoint. To find the x-coordinate of your midpoint, you would add your 2 x-coordinates together and divide by 2. And to find the y-coordinate of your midpoint, you would add your 2 y-coordinates together and divide by 2. So, let's do one together. To find the midpoint between -3, 7 and -9, -1, we just need to add our 2 x-coordinates together and divide by 2. So, we could do that by adding -3 to -9 and dividing by 2. And to find the y-coordinate of our midpoint, we need to add our 2 y-coordinates together and divide by 2. Now all we do is simplify. So -3 plus -9 is -12. Still keep that over 2. And then 7 plus -1 would be 6. And keep that over 2. And then simplify one more step. -12 over 2 is -6. And 6 over 2 is 3. So that's our midpoint, -6, 3. And if you look at the graph, our midpoint is R, and that is right at -6, 3, and it's right in the middle of Q and T, our 2 midpoints. So now I'd like you to try one on your own. So do this one on a separate piece of paper. Pause the video right now as you try it, and then hit play once you want to see how you did. Alright, let's go over this one together. So again, we're just going to use the formula. So to find the midpoint between these 2 points, we are going to add our 2 x-coordinates together. So, we have 2 plus -4 over 2. That would represent the x-coordinate of our midpoint. And the y-coordinate of our midpoint, to find that, we would add 8 plus 13 and then divide by 2. So 2 plus -4 is just -2. Keep that over 2. And then 8 plus 13 would be 21. Keep that over 2. -2 over 2 is -1. 21 over 2, you can leave it as is, or if you write it as 10.5, that's also acceptable. So if you got this, or -1, 10.5, good job. Give yourself a pat on the back. Let's look at one other type of midpoint problem we might get, and that's given a midpoint and an endpoint, find the other endpoint. So to do that, you can always use the formula, plug in what you know, and solve for the other endpoint. But I think this is an easier way right here, and that is to make a little picture. So, say right here is your first endpoint, 3, 1. I'm going to put that on the end because that's an endpoint, and then put my midpoint right in the middle. So that would be -1, 6. And our other endpoint, which we don't know, goes right here. So to figure out the x-coordinate of our endpoint, we first need to know how many units we need to travel in the x direction to go from our endpoint to our midpoint. So that would be 4 units to the left, or to go from 3 to -1, you are going to subtract 4 from 3. So, since this midpoint is right in the middle of these 2 endpoints, here and here, we need to travel another 4 in the left direction, or subtract 4 from -1 to find the other endpoint. So, -1 minus 4 would be -5, which would give us the x-coordinate of our other endpoint. The same thing goes for y. To find the y-coordinate of our other endpoint, we need to first figure out how many units we're traveling in the y direction to go from one endpoint to the other midpoint. So that would be, you would add 5 to go from 1 to 6. So to find the other endpoint, we need to add another 5, because again, this midpoint has to be right in the middle of the two endpoints. So in order to accomplish that, you'd have to add another 5. So, although it's in a bunch of different colors, our answer is what I'm circling right now, -5, 11. Now, I would like you to try one on your own. Pause the video as you try it, and then hit play when you want to see how you did. Alright, so hopefully you've tried this problem, and now we're going to go over it. So, again, I'm going to draw a picture. So I have my first endpoint over here at 4, -11, and my other endpoint is going to be right in the middle. So that is at 15, -20. And I'm going to leave a blank point over here, and that represents my other endpoint. So first, let's find the x-coordinate of our endpoint. So to go from 4 to 15, you have to travel positive 11 in the x direction. So that would be like you have to add 11 to 4 to get to 15. So to find the other endpoint, since 15 is right in the middle of 4 and the x-coordinate of our other endpoint, to find this other endpoint, we have to add 11 again. See how these two numbers are the same each time? So 15 plus 11 would be 26. So that is the x-coordinate of our endpoint. To find the y-coordinate of our other endpoint, we do the same thing. So to go from -11 to -20, you have to go down 9 units or subtract 9. So to find the other endpoint, we would subtract another 9 from the midpoint, because remember, the midpoint is right in the middle of these two endpoints. So -20 minus 9 would be -29. So that's our answer, 26, -29. Thank you for watching.